Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm just going to give it a minute for people to join in. Welcome all to the 2025 UCR Staff Conference. We're so thrilled to have you with us today. A few notes in case you haven't been in our sessions this morning. Each session is recorded and will be posted on the UCR Staff Assembly YouTube channel. The keynotes will be in our LMS system, just so you're aware. If you'd like closed captioning for this session, you can click on the Show Closed Caption button at the bottom of your screen. While we can use chat to interact, please submit your questions using the Q&A feature at the bottom, which it doesn't look like there is one necessarily for this section, but I will find your questions. And then to get started, we have with us Ed Marchall. So with a background rooted in athletic training, Ed has a strong belief in the importance of taking preventative measures to reduce the risk of injury. Whether it be on the playing field, in a warehouse, in a dining hall, or in an office, we can all agree that nobody enjoys being injured, but we may not all be aware of the things that we can do to reduce the risk of injury. With a whole lot of years under his belt working with workers' comp injuries, Ed has come to believe that a lack of flexibility and core strength are major contributors to workplace injury. Ed feels that providing a basic understanding of the importance of flexibility and core strength, along with some simple stretches and exercises, will empower people to take a proactive approach to their health and well-being. This, in turn, will ideally lead to a pain and injury-free home/work life. So with that, I pass it over to Ed Marchall.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Brittany, for that introduction. Great to be here. I appreciate the invite and the opportunity to share a little bit of this with you. So give me a second here. I'm going to share my screen here. All right. We look okay right there, Brittany? Got the right screen up?
Yep, looks good.
All right. So let's go ahead and get started here. So first of all, I want to give everybody a brief overview of the Workstrong program. I am the Workstrong Coordinator here on campus. So Workstrong, it's kind of a niche little program. It's part of our workers' comp unit. And it is a system-wide program. So every campus does have some version of Workstrong. And the primary focus of Workstrong is to work with our faculty and staff members who have experienced a work-related injury. The goal of Workstrong being to aid in recovery, to help those folks make a full recovery, get as close to 100% as we can get them. But the nice thing about it is, we also work on the overall health and wellness improvement for our employees. Now, Workstrong, typically I'll get a referral for somebody who has a history of work-related injuries. Typically after the second injury within a 24-month period, somebody's name may come across my desk. We'll take a look at those injuries. And there's some qualifying factors in there, but then we'll reach out to that employee and discuss participation in the program. Now, it is also possible for a referral to occur with one qualifying injury, and that typically is based on a physician's recommendation for the program. Now, some of the services that are provided through Workstrong, because the program is tailored to the specific needs of that employee, but some of the more popular options are one-on-one sessions with a personal trainer, and that's typically going to be myself. Along with that is everybody's favorite 6-month membership to the rec center. And the great thing about that is you have full access to the rec center with, or without your trainer there. So you can participate in the group fitness classes, you can enjoy the swimming pool and whatnot. So that's a great perk. We also have access to a registered dietitian for those of you for those employees who are looking to make some nutritional changes to their diets. And we also team up with our campus ergonomist, Jansen Cunanan. And Jansen's great at doing some ergonomic evaluations of workstations. Now, typically, that's going to be folks in the office settings, but he's also available to do that for folks that are working in, dining, housing, facilities, in the labs. So ergonomics, as we'll discuss here in a minute, plays a key role in our overall health and wellness. Now, again, like I mentioned before, the great thing about Workstrong is we don't have to focus specifically on that injured area. So we're looking at overall health improvements for the employees. So, maybe you're looking to lose a little bit of weight, change your diet, improve your cardio fitness. Maybe the injury was the shoulder, but you want to work on leg strength. We can do all that as well. So that's one of the key perks to the program. But now the downside of participating in the Workstrong program is, to participate, you need to have been injured on the job, right? And that's something that, personally, and I think most of you would agree with, we'd rather not be injured, right? So a lot of the work I do on campus is, teaming up with Hung Woo, our wellness coordinator, and some other folks, Jansen, our ergonomist, to work on injury prevention programs. Like I said, I'd rather you not get injured and not get that referral to my office. So let's discuss some of the key contributors to our workplace injuries. And obviously, there's a lot of contributors, and just given the amount of time we have here, I'm going to focus on just a few. So ergonomics in our workstations, that's always going to be an issue. For those of us who are working primarily on laptops, you may find yourself in this sort of a position more times than not. Even if we have desktop units, okay, this may be how we end up, sitting at our workstations. For those of you that are able to work at home, maybe you're a little more relaxed. So maybe you find yourself in a position like this. Looks comfortable, but are you really going to be able to work like that for an extended period of time? Maybe not. So if we take a look at, primarily these top two situations, what areas do you think we may experience issues with? Ergonomics here is typically going to affect our upper back, right? Back of our head, our shoulders. And one of the key issues with that is going to be our head position, right? Ideally, our head weighs, roughly 10 to 12 pounds on average. In an ideal ergonomic situation, our head is aligned with our spine and our shoulders. So our head weighs roughly 10 pounds, 12 pounds. If we move forward a little bit, as you see in some of these positions here, the weight of our head is multiplied. So, just moving 2 inches, our head may start effectively weighing 32 pounds. If we move a little bit farther, okay, our head ends up weighing, roughly 40 pounds, just due to the physics, right? So, so we typically feel that in the back of our heads, right? The end of a long day, especially if we're in these bad positions here, most of us feel it in the top of our shoulders. Maybe so much so that we start developing those stress headaches, right? Those stress headaches right up there at the back of our head. That's typically where they start. So this upper trapezius muscle, okay, is typically going to be our culprit. So the trapezius muscle is this large muscle group, but this upper band here, this upper trapezius that runs from the tip of our shoulders up to the back of our head, is typically where we carry most of that stress. Those muscles over time, especially if we're in a position like this, become fatigued. So that's one of the areas that we need to address. So what's a good ergonomic setup? Most of you have probably seen this poster around. So we look at a good ergonomic setup. Nice supported seat. We're resting up against the seat back with our lumbar spine supported versus, this diagram over here where we have this big gap. Okay. Our head is going to be supported by our spine. It's in line with our shoulders, with our spine down to our hips, versus this one here where we're definitely out of alignment and our head is weighing, roughly feeling like it weighs 30 to 40 pounds here. We'd like our hips to be at roughly 90 degrees, can be opened a little bit there. Same with our knees, we'd like them at 90 degrees, and our feet to be supported. If you happen to be at a workstation and you're not able to lower your chair, then a footstool is another good option to support those feet, bring those knees up to 90 degrees. Same applies to a standing position. If you're fortunate enough to have a sit-stand station, again, we'd like our head to be supported by our spine, so over our shoulders, arms hanging at roughly 90 degrees, relaxed, okay? And again, our feet supported as well. That's a good option just to kind of change things up for us. Like trying to advance my slide there. All right. The same principles apply if we happen to have a laptop that we're working off primarily. Right. Ideally, we'd get a laptop stand here in order to elevate that screen. So to reduce some of the strain on our neck there, we'd like our eye level to be roughly the top of our screen so we can naturally look down at our screen. Now, the one thing I hate about laptops is our screen is connected to our keyboard. So key would be here, a wireless keyboard, in order to be able to sit at a neutral position, keep our screen level, keep our keyboard in a easily accessible, and our mouse as well. Now, if you're unable to acquire a laptop stand, books, especially if we're working at home, books or a file box or another way to elevate that laptop. But again, key is having that wireless keyboard and mouse. So as far as ergonomics go, those are some really easy fixes there. But lack of flexibility, like we mentioned before, in the number of years that I've done this, that seems to be a really key factor in workplace injuries. Static positions, right? Being seated for a long period of time. Now, this conference has been going on since this morning. If you've been enjoying all of the speakers, maybe you've been at your desk for a long period of time and haven't gotten up much. Okay, when it is time to get up, take a little break. You're feeling a little pain in the back there. Now, this is the issue I have the most problems with personally. When I'm sitting for a long period of time and I go to stand up, I feel like I'm walking like this gentleman for the first few steps before I am able to walk upright. Those hip flexors, the front of the hips there, tighten up on me. And that may be something that a lot of you experience as well. And that goes, to the lack of movement, being seated for a long period of time. Sciatic pain. I'm going to throw this one out there. How many of you experience that sharp shooting pain that typically starts at the top of the buttocks, runs anywhere, across the buttocks, down into the leg, maybe sometimes all the way down to the foot. Lack of flexibility, again, I'm pointing to that as the culprit there. Primarily in the hamstrings. Okay, those muscles on the back of our leg there. So many of the folks that I work with, that tends to be the problem area, right? As well as problems in the upper hip. So we're going to get into a little anatomy lesson here for you. So that sciatic nerve that runs all the way down our leg, it is the fattest nerve in our body. Think about your pinky finger. That's about how thick it is. But it originates in our spine, L3, 4, 5, S1, S2, S3, as little branches of nerve. And it combines into this big fat nerve. Okay. But as it weaves its way down our leg, it snakes its way through all these muscle groups, primarily the piriformis and posterior hips. On top of that, our larger gluteal muscles. And then as it weaves its way down our leg, it's working its way through those hamstring muscles. So if those muscles are nice and tight, that tends to impinge, reduce the room that nerve has. Okay. As it pinches on that nerve, that's typically when we get that sharp shooting pain down the leg. That's enough for the anatomy for now. So what I want to hit on, some of the keys are some really easy to do stretches that you can do in the office, that you can do at home, because movement is our friend, right? Stretching is good for us. When we go and do our presentations, we really highlight the importance of moving. If you're sitting in a meeting, staff meeting, a long conference, sitting through a webinar, it's good to get up and move around, okay? If you need to go to the back of the room and do a couple of these stretches, most of the time, folks are going to be okay with that. I wouldn't go to the back of the room and start, doing jumping jacks and push-ups and things like that, but doing some of these easy to do stretches, one, it's going to wake you up, because, sitting through some of these conferences can sometimes get a little mentally taxing on us, and it also kind of stiffens us up a little bit. So doing some of these definitely going to help with waking you up. All right, so now here's where we're going to get into the interactive portion of our day. I'm going to stop sharing here for a moment. And we're going to go through some of these stretches. So for this part, I'm going to be moving around a little bit, so hopefully I don't make anybody seasick, right? Then we're going to start upper body with our neck, right? So we're all pretty familiar with neck stretches. So that's the one we're going to start with, all right? Nice, general, easy stretch. So follow along as best you can. We're going to start with our chin down to our chest. And we're just going to start nice and easy with some slow neck circles. All right, what I want you to do is pause with that ear to the shoulder. And when we pause, we're going to feel that stretch on the opposite side. Then we're going to continue. We'll pause again, feel that stretch on the side. And let's go in the opposite direction. And we'll pause, continue, pause, feel that stretch right there. And for time's sake, we're going to just kind of fly through some of these. Now, we talked about stress and, the effects of bad posture and experiencing that tension in the back of our shoulders there, right? That upper trapezius muscle. So this next little exercise is going to target that muscle group right there. One of my favorites. So what I'd like you to do is take that right hand and put it behind your back. It doesn't have to be up high, down low. We just want it back there to hold that shoulder down. All right, with your left hand, you want that on top of your head. And we're going to turn our chin towards the left there. And we call this one the deodorant check. And we're going to very gently pull that chin down towards our armpit. And as we do that, you should feel that stretch from the tip of our shoulders all the way up to the back of the head there. We're going to hold that for a few seconds and we'll relax. Let's switch sides. We'll take that left hand behind our back, hand on our head, turn, and gently chin towards your armpit. All right. Nice and easy. And you do that a couple of times just to really stretch that area out. Great stress reliever. All right, next up, especially for our keyboard warriors, those that are doing a lot of data input, in that position with those shoulders rolled forward, doesn't really cause us a lot of pain, but in that position for an extended period of time, our pecs, our shoulders tend to tighten up on us. All right, so it's good to stretch those out every once in a while. All right, so what we're going to do, I'm going to stand up for this one just to try to get away so you can see a little bit more. So for this one, right, we're going to take both hands, put them behind our back. And we're just going to pinch those shoulder blades. We're going to throw that chest out there, open up the shoulders. We should feel that across our chest, into the shoulders a little bit. We'll relax. All right, we'll do it again. Pinch those shoulder blades. And relax. Real gentle stretch for the shoulders there. Maybe you need something a little more intense, all right? I'm going to show you one of my another favorite stretch for that area here. I'm going to move over. Now for this one, you need something solid to hang on to. You could be against a wall, but I like using the door jamb. Something that's not going to move on us. So with this one, what I like to do, see, you guys can see that. Start off grabbing onto something about 90 degrees, right? And all I'm going to do, I'm going to hang on to that, and I'm going to turn away from it. I'm going to open up the shoulders, and with that, I'm going to feel that stretch in the forearm, across the front of the shoulders, across the pectoral muscles. And because we're all different, we're all going to have tightness in some different areas. I like to play around with angles. So right here, I'm at about 90 degrees. Relax. Let's take it up a little bit. Raise that hand. Same thing. We're going to open up, pull away from it. I'm going to feel that in a different area. Okay, slightly different. If I go lower, same thing. Open up, turn away. I'm going to feel that towards the top of the shoulder there. So find that spot that feels really good for you, and then that'll be the one that you really focus on. All right. Again, being seated for a long period of time. Let me move around here a little bit more. When you go to stand up, everything feels nice and tight in those hip flexors. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to stretch that area out a little bit. All right. We're going to stand up here. All we're going to do, well, if you need to hang on to something for balance, go for it. That's fine. But we're just going to go hands on our hips. We're going to arch the back, lean back. And as we do that, as we're leaning back, we're going to feel a little bit in our abs, but in those hip flexors as well. All right, we'll hold that for a few seconds and relax. And we do it one more time. And relax. Again, real gentle stretch for that area. Maybe you want something a little more intense, right? So we really want to get into those hip flexors and that quad. I like to do lunges. Right? So let's try that one. All right, so for that lunge, we're going to go one leg forward, one leg back. Okay? Again, if you need to hang on to something for balance, go for it. We're just going to drop that back knee down to the ground. All right, and as we do that, we're going to feel that stretch in those quads. We're going to really feel it in those hip flexors. Okay, we want our torso up nice and tall. We want to lean back a little bit even, really feel that stretch in those hips. Okay. If you find yourself leaning on that front knee, you're cheating yourself there. We're not stretching that area at all. All right, so we want to be upright or leaning back. Let's switch sides. Okay. One leg forward, one leg back. Drop that back knee, nice and tall. Feeling it in the quads there, feeling it in the hip flexors. Perfect. Nice and deep stretch. And we talked about that sciatic pain, right? And stretching out those posterior hip muscles. Real easy way to do that in the office. Yeah, this is a fun one to experiment with. We're just going to cross our legs. Right. What I'd like you to do is put one ankle up on your knee there. And then from there, we're just going to lean forward on it. I mean, that might be enough for some of you. You may already be feeling it right there in those glutes, but if you can, just hinge forward at the hips, lean forward. You'll be feeling that all up in that posterior ear hip muscle. Now pay attention to how tight you are, because here's the fun part. Switch sides, right? See how you feel on that side. Same thing, cross that leg, lean forward. Like for me, my left side is definitely tighter than my right. So figure out which one is a little tighter for you, and then that'll be the one you kind of spend a little more time on, right? All right, so for time's sake here, let's get into carpal tunnel, okay? Again, especially for our keyboard warriors, those of us who are doing a lot of data input, or maybe you're working in dining and doing a lot of fine manipulations, you know, the carpal tunnel, you know, the fingers that help us wiggle those, the muscles that help us wiggle those fingers in the forearms, right? Really small little area there. And ideally, those muscle tendons that run through that carpal tunnel glide nice and smooth against each other. But from overuse or from an acute injury, sometimes those tendons swell up and they start sticking to each other. And that's when we start getting that numbness, tingling in the fingers. So this next little group of exercises are designed to help break up some of that inflammation that might be developing in those areas. All right. So we're probably all familiar with, you know, just doing wrist circles just to kind of loosen things up a little bit. And those are fine. And we've probably all done the forearm stretches as well, right? And those are great. Love these. Want to keep that elbow straight, grab that palm, pull it up. That's going to stretch out the muscle group that helps us wiggle our fingers. All right. But here's what I want to show you. All right. What I'd like you to do is put your arms out in front of you. And the first thing we're going to do is called the hook fist. So we're just going to bend the tips of our fingers. We're just going to open and close a few times. All right. Next, I want you to do a straight fist. So we're going to take our fingers and bring them down to the bottom of our palm. Right. And then we're going to do a full fist. Just clench that fist, open and close, open and close. And last but not least, we're going to take that thumb and bring it across our palm. Open and close, open and close. Okay. So, and that's it. That's it. Took us all of 20 seconds or so. How many of you already felt a little something just from that? Yeah. Movements that you're not used to, but practice those. And like I said, they're designed to get those muscle tendons to kind of break apart, start moving independently, break up any of that adhesion, inflammation that may be developing in there. All right, so let me go back to sharing my screen here. And everybody's going to have access to this presentation afterwards, and all of these images are downloadable. They'll take you to the Workstrong site so that you can print some of these out. All right, so there's the tendon glides, and I also wanted to highlight. Yeah, there we go. We teamed up, Workstrong teamed up with Wellness and the SRC and our ergonomist. And from when was it? The end of last year, we created a video series. And we provided that to the campus. It was the Move Well series. But the nice thing about it was we recorded those sessions and they are now available on the UCOP site. So they're available system-wide, but you can click on the links here to go to the various videos that we were able to produce. They did a great job on making us look good. All right, so I promised somebody that I would introduce everybody to our UC Safe program. Okay, this is being was developed recently. I think it's going to be introduced campus-wide next week. So UCR Safe is our new mobile app that emergency management, along with UCPD, has developed. And this is going to be a great resource for everybody. Like I said, it's a mobile app currently available on Google Play and the App Store. So with this app, we'll have features like a mobile blue light, which is going to act just like the blue lights on campus. Okay. If you need to submit a report or want to call in a tip, okay, that's something that you'll be able to do with the app. A lot of resources like the campus maps, okay, crime maps, directions, things like that. Emergency contacts. We're going to have a lot of resources here for students as well as faculty and staff. So, and emergency plans as well. So this is going to be it is a living app. So it's evolving constantly and they're trying to add more and more features to it. So great resource. Like I said, you can download it if you want to screenshot that or scan that now, or you'll have access to it later as well, or just look up the UCR Safe app. If you have any questions about it, you can contact emergency management there. All right, so I want to kind of wrap things up, give you some contact information here. If you'd like some more information on the UCR wellness program, you can definitely click on the link or go to hrucr.edu or reach out to Hung directly. If you'd like some information on ergonomics, and I did mention that Jansen is available. I team up with him through Workstrong to do those workstation evaluations, but you don't need to do that through Workstrong. You can reach out to him directly, let him know that you're having some issues with your workstation and you'd like him to come out and take a look, and he'd be more than happy to do that. And then, of course, my information is there as well. So I love going out and doing presentations like this, whether it's staff meetings, retreats, whatever the case is. I like to, talk to folks about the injury prevention part of all of this, basically to keep you out of my office. That's what it comes down to. I say that ever so nicely, right? Love talking to you guys, but don't want to see you in my office. All right. So with that, I will wrap things up. I do appreciate you guys giving me this opportunity. I think we have a couple of minutes left. If we have any questions, we can touch on those. If not, our next session is going to be with Jeff Butler, leading in times of uncertainty, and that'll start roughly 15 minutes or so.
Absolutely. So if there are any questions, feel free to raise your hand or drop them in the chat. In the meantime, I do want to thank all of you for being here with us today. I hope you've enjoyed your time. Our goal is to keep the UCR Staff Conference 100% free to attend, and we couldn't do that without the generous support of our sponsors, UCR Staff Assembly, the Leaders of Excellence and Distinction, or LEAD, UCR Human Resources / Employee and Organizational Development, and Schools First Credit Union. Just as a reminder, we will upload this session to the UCR Staff Assembly YouTube channel, and I will be putting Ed slides on the conference page as well after the session. So you can just click on the link once you click on his session. Few quick reminders. Our in-person closing session is tomorrow at 2 p.m. Please make sure you RSVP and reserve your spot on the closing ceremony session on the conference webpage. Lead nominations for the executive board are open. You can email lead@ucr.edu. Staff assembly elections will open April 14th, so you can vote starting then, and we will send that link out. And then sign up for the UCR EOD listserv. I will go ahead and put that in the chat. Give me just one quick second. And then lastly, you can sign up for the Franklin Covey All Access Pass. It is something that is relatively new to campus. Rather than paying for one session of Franklin Covey, you can get the All Access Pass for only $3.95 and have access to the entire platform. So lots of things coming up. Again, thank you all for coming to this session. If there are any questions, we can hang around for a little bit. Other than that, we'll see y'all at 2 o'clock.